morning, class. I hope everybody had a great day yesterday. So who can tell me something we learned last Monday? We talked about the different types of charts that we have. So can anybody tell me what they remember about a bar graph? Right. A bar graph compares different types of things. So a bar graph is a graph that uses numbers, so then we can compare different types of categories. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about bar graphs, and we're going to talk about the parts of the bar graphs that we have to have when making a bar graph, and then later we'll do a worksheet. So we're going to look at my bar graph that I made. So it says favorite animals, and then this is my bar graphs: cats, dogs, snakes, and birds. So let's talk about the parts of this bar graph. So can anybody tell me what this is? This is very important because it tells us what we're talking about. This is called our title. And it is very important to have because we got to know what we're talking about, right? So here is called our x-axis. We don't have to remember it as the x-axis. This is where we're going to have our categories. So our categories are cats, dogs, snakes, and birds. And then on this side, we have our y-axis, and this shows the number. In this example, this shows us the number of people that likes cats, dogs, snakes, or birds. So for example, the amount of people that likes cats is 5, because it's the top of the bar. The amount of people who likes dogs is 7, and that's because that's where it goes to. We draw these lines so we can help know which number it is, because sometimes it can get a little confusing and you can't tell if it's a 6 or a 7. And then snakes, for example, is 3. We draw a dotted line. Can't really see that. And that's the top of it, and equals 3. So that is the parts of our bar graph. So let's talk about our first example. So where it says favorite pizza toppings, this would be our title. So now let's look at the x-axis. The x-axis has our categories today. So let's look at our x-axis. What categories do we have in this example? We have cheese, mushrooms and olives, sausage, and pepperoni. So those are our categories, is what we are comparing. So then let's take a look at our y-axis, and then this is where our numbers that we're measuring with are. So can anybody tell me the increments we are going by? We are going by 5. So 5, 10, 15, 20. And the reason why we do this is because it makes it where when we have working with big numbers, it can actually fit on the page, because if you're working in the 100s, you can't fit it on the graph on a little piece of paper. So that's why we go by 5s, 10s, 15s, 20s, or whatever. It changes per graph. So they're going by 5s in this example. So let's try another example. So let's look at our favorite sports. So in this example, can anybody tell me what the title is? Obviously, our favorite sports is the title, so we know that we're talking about our favorite sports because we can use our SmartArticle particles to figure that out. Okay, so what are the categories that we're talking about in this example? We're talking about soccer, softball, basketball, and others. And others can include multiple sports, but this is just it's just one category. So what on the y-axis, what increments are they going in that we talked about last time? According to it, it's just going in 1 increments, even though they just wrote it 2, 4, 6, 8. You can see there's a line between each of them, so that means it's going 1, 2, 3, 4, and just like all the way up to 10. So let's go beyond just the parts and let's analyze it. And don't freak out. We're just going to analyze it. You guys can do it. So, what is people's favorite sports the most? Who loves the most? Right, soccer does. Soccer, most of the students like soccer. And how many people like soccer? Let's see, we gotta look really close. 9 people like soccer, and that is the highest bar, so that means it has the most people. So, let's try another one. What sport has 4 people that like it? So let's look at the chart, and then let's take our finger and scan it, and which one lines up with 4 on the top. And that is softball. So 4 people voted for softball as their favorite sport. And then, so we just learned all that from just comparing from the bar graph. Okay, we're going to do 2 more examples. So let's take a look at this example. Now, can anybody tell me what the title is? I don't see it either. Well, is there anything else wrong with this picture? You guys are right. This isn't a bar graph. This is a pictogram. And we talked about this on Monday, and we're going to go into detail a little later and talk about it, but not today. We're going to focus on bar graphs. But good call. I tried to trick you. Okay, so let's do one more example before we start the worksheet. So let's look at this last example. What is the title of this graph? Favorite cereal. So using our SmartNocle particles, we figured out that they are talking about their favorite cereals. So let's look at the x-axis. So what are our categories in this favorite cereal bar graph? Yep, we have Corn Flakes, Cheerios, Life, and Kick. My personal favorite is Corn Flakes. So now let's look at the number of voters. Now the number of voters is the y-axis, and it's going by increments of 1. So now let's analyze it again. So let's see, how many people like Cheerios? That's right, 2 people like Cheerios who voted in this group. So how many people like Life? 6. So 6 people like Life, and that is also what? The most people voted that their favorite cereal was Life. Good job, guys. So today we're going to do a worksheet, and this is what the worksheet looks like. So we are going to have our graph, and then I want you to answer the questions below. So we're going to do number 1 together. How many kids like green? Okay, and now you find your category, and you look how many people like green, and you bring your finger over. 6 people like green. See, I already did the first answer. So then I also want you to label the parts of the graph. And you have 2 graphs that I want you to do and answer 6 questions on each.